Hey,
Hey, Kim, how's it going?
good. Tamia still at the pediatrician's.
Okay.
So what does she do? She makes you host, or do you?
You can make me host if you need to, because basically what we're going to do is have when the companies come in, we do a mic check and video check, and then I map in what investors are showing up and put them on my sheet to call them in the right order. And then we
Okay.
have Andy doing a presentation, so we'll do a mic check for him as well. But
All
that's
right.
no.
Well, I'll hang about for a bit and let people in, so you don't have to worry about that.
Okay, let's do that. And then when we kick
And
off,
okay, did
um,
you get a notification to your phone from Twilio?
yeah, let's see. So the most recent one is 110171.
Let me see if that still works.
That was 12:36, 10 minutes ago,
Okay,
maybe.
I'm gonna resend it.
Yeah, go ahead and resend.
This is infuriating. So annoying.
This is GMass or something else?
No, it's Twilio. I figured out why I couldn't get in because SunGrid is under Twilio, so your account, it doesn't matter. But I figured it out. I just
Uh,
now it needs to send you a code.
all right, so it's 450639.
Remember me for 30 days. Uh-oh. Okay, we're in. All good.
Okay, great. Yeah, maybe Monday we can have a training and show me how to use this stuff or whenever you're
Okay.
ready. I'm driving back tomorrow afternoon, so it's gonna be later. But love to learn how
Yeah,
to do those mailers. Yeah.
sure. I mean, you won't be using Trello as much because those are really the mailers that, like the mass ones that Mo would do or Sam occasionally.
Right.
But the GMass, yes, I'll definitely walk you through that because you got to get that added to your as an extension.
Right. Okay. Work on that. And
Okay, I'm gonna stay with no code. Okay, that's up. That's all updated. All right. Yeah, it's just going to take a while to, I mean, you can start using GMS right away. It's just going to take a while for us to get everything moved out of MixNext and Active Campaign. And I'm trying to get all of that done by the 12th so that we don't pay for another month of Active Campaign. But there's a lot in there, and their download options are garbage nonsense.
okay.
That's
All
been,
right. That's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. So I'm just going to be keep doing working on that in the background while this.
Right. Yeah, I can do this. I'll probably do our intro slides like I did before. I skipped them
Okay.
yesterday because we were short on time and it was really tight to do that one. Let's
I'd
see.
love to have that as like maybe a third, like a secondary account for these events. So like Demia would play the slides, but your head would still be there so people can see you when you come in, or Mo, whoever's doing the event. But
Hmm.
she's not here today, so
Okay. Right. Yeah, this will work. Mhm. I used to have Cat run them, but it was always next slide, next slide, next slide. And if they're in Canva, and I can just do them myself, I guess.
Oh, one quick question. What was the name of our nonprofit entity again?
I think Austin Angel Network was the formal name that we filed the tax return under.
Okay.
Okay. I can give you the number whenever you want that if you want to look up stuff. Here comes Aaron.
Here, I'll hop off y'all.
Okay. Hey, Aaron, thanks for joining. How's it going? Hey, Aaron, how's it going?
Good. I just realized my team did not have the link.
Oh, you have to get them in. Yeah, I'll let them in. You send it to them, and wanted to do your microphone sounds good. If you want to launch your slides, and let's see if they come through. I find it's helpful to test it just before we get jump in.
All right.
I think I have you going third today, and this is the 10-minute pitch, 10-minute Q&A. So we got a little bit more time, and then at the end we have a presentation from one of the investors. So 10-minute presentation.
All right. Um,
They're coming up. We see them now. Look like they're in full screen mode. You can advance one slide. Um yeah, they work. I think we're in good shape. Did you have any questions about the event today?
no, no, looking forward to it.
Okay. Yeah, it's really not that different than all the other ones you've done. So I know you've done a lot of these, but people always want to know how it's different. It's hopefully it's a little bit more interactive than the other ones. So we'll see.
Okay.
So what we'll do is do four presentations. I'll do a quick introduction. I'll introduce the investors, have them introduce themselves so we know who's in the room. Then go through four pitches. We'll ask the investors who they want to follow up with. I'll do the intros after this, and then we'll um, have a short presentation, 10 minutes from one of the investors. And I found a lot of investors working with AI and had lots of questions about it and lots of feedback and interest. And so we're going to try this as a tool to see if that attracts investors into the room because I know they're very interested in it. And this is one place you can go to get some feedback that you may not be able to get otherwise. So we'll see.
Okay.
Cool.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. I'll see you at the top of the hour.
Yep.
Hey, Bruce, thanks for joining.
Thanks, Martin.
Yes. Are you an investor?
No, I'm with FL Therapeutics with
Aphid.
Aaron.
Okay,
Yeah,
great. Okay, great. I at the beginning I have all the investors introduce themselves, so I'm just getting my short list together for that. But glad you're here. Aaron's already in the room, and so we'll kick off at the top of the hour and go forward from there.
sounds good.
Pete Ferrari. Hey, Pete, thanks for joining.
Hey man,
You want to test out your slides? Let's see.
sure.
Yeah.
Let's give it a shot. Share and share. What you see?
It's coming up. Yeah, it's there and
Perfecto.
looks good to go.
I'm
You're
not
going.
first, am I'm not first, am I?
Yes, you are first, as a matter of fact.
Oh, let's go. All right. I'm glad it's
And
working.
yeah, yeah. And I'm going to do a short introduction, and then we'll kick it straight to you. Have the investors introduce themselves before we jump into it. We should have a good group today, and then we have a short presentation at the end from Andy Fergasi. The purpose of this event was to have investors talk about their work with AI. I haven't talked to an investor in the last 3 months that is not working on AI in some way, shape, and form, and they all have something they want to share with other people and get feedback and coaching and stuff like that. So we'll see how it goes today. It's our first one, but I've got 5 other people that say they want to do it, so we'll be doing this on a monthly basis for sure.
This is great. Yeah, I talked to Andy. I had a Zoom call with or a phone call with him the other day. He's doing some pretty interesting things.
Yeah, he's called himself the tenacious founder, and
Yeah,
it's interesting mode he took. He took all the major VCs and kind of aligned them into one model, and of course showed how each one kind of goes to a different application or a different style. And so I thought that was kind of interesting mode he put it
agree.
in.
Yeah, definitely novel. Hey, so clarification for me real quick before we begin. Today's focus is not AI, is it? Or is it?
No, no, it's just a standard pitch event. We
Okay,
do have uh, two, two med devices, one therapeutic and one consumer. So it's a mixture of what it is.
perfect.
Find that that helps because we usually get a mixture of investors too, so that helps.
Good.
Wolfgang City. Hi, Wolfgang. Thanks for joining us.
So it looks like I'm in the right spot. I was searching around a little bit there for the right link.
Yeah, no, you are. You're in the right place. Thanks for joining us today. I see you're with Aether as well.
Yeah.
Great. Glad to have you here with us. We'll be kicking off in just a few moments. Aaron and Bruce are already here, so we'll see next steps here. I think we've got uh, Lawrence Knorr. Thanks for joining today.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good, doing good. Looking forward to having you here today. We'll have a short introduction here before we kick off. We got a few more people coming in, and I usually do a few slides and so forth. But looks like you got some great things going on there as well. Let's see. So, so you're also with Aether. Okay, great. And then let's get Andy in. Andy, thanks for joining.
Sure.
So, since you're going to do a presentation at the end today, can you go ahead and test your slides out? Just launch them and see if they advance.
Sure. Let me see here. Where it is share. Screen two. Share. And do you see that?
Yes, we do. Can you
Oh,
advance the slide?
let's see here.
Yeah,
Seeing
I
anything?
see. Yeah, it changed. So I think we're in good shape with that. you'll have the after the four presentations, we'll have you give a presentation, and then we'll have 10 minutes Q&A on it, and that should take us for the day as well. Thanks for being here. With that, Swarna, thanks for joining today. Just wanted to check your slides out, see how they're working.
Oh, sure.
We've done this before, so it's
I think you can see, and then I can just do that, do it into slideshow. Yes. Looks good.
it does. Yeah, thanks
Thank
for
you.
joining. Cool. All right, you are up next, second. Pete first, and then Nolius, then Aether, then Solaris. So we have four presenters today. I think Solaris may be showing up a little bit later, but we can do that. Toyosi.
Hi.
Hi,
Hello.
Toyosi. Thanks for joining today.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Do I call you Hall or call you Martin?
It's Hall. Yes, it is.
Hall. Okay, great.
Great.
Hi.
Thanks. We'll be kicking off in just a few minutes.
Gotcha.
I'm still letting note takers in. Everybody's got a note taker.
I started using a note taker, but then I realized I never looked at the notes, so I stopped using one.
I found one called Granola that I like quite a bit. Here comes Martin Tobias.
Well, they all seem nice. It's just that if you don't use the notes later, what's the point?
They had AI embedded inside of it that I liked really well, and it kind of
You can
fit
search
my
it.
model. Yeah, so it helped a lot. Hey, Martin, thanks for joining.
Hey, how are you?
Doing good, doing good. Looking forward to catching up today. Got a few more people. Got a couple more people coming in, so we'll wait till they
Cool.
jump in, and then we'll kick off in just a minute here, and then I'll do a short presentation, so we give more people time to get in, and then we'll kick off with our first presenter. We'll have four presenters today: Healthy for Life, Nolius, Aether, Solaris, and then a presentation from Andy Forgassi about the Tenacious Founder Tribe, and looking forward to feedback on what he's doing there with AI. And hope, Martin, you can join us in a future event to talk about your work there. I think it's going to be a good
Cool.
one.
All right, great.
Cool. So let me go ahead and kick into these slides we got a number of new people here that haven't seen us before. So let me go ahead and put my slides up and do a quick introduction on 10 for those who don't know us. And then we will jump into the first presenter. So let's see, share. Okay, great. Let me do presentation mode. So, yeah, I want to thank everybody for joining us for today's event. This is a new event. It's called 10 Capital Connect. And I was actually talking to Martin Tobias and Andy Forgassi, who are here today with us, about what they were doing. And they, along with almost every other investor I've talked to in the last 6 months, have been working on applying AI to investment and how to use it to screen, analyze, match, do whatever you want to do with it. Everybody's got some really cool tools going on out there, and said, well, I want to come up with an event that lets people come together to show what they've done with it and get feedback from others in the room. We'll have some pitches along the way. We have a few more investors coming in that will be here as well. And so that's what today's event is about. It's about raising funding, and also about looking at what you can do with AI for the tools. I think everybody here is doing something with it, and looking forward to people's feedback on this as well as the presentations. But for those who don't know us, I see a number of new faces in the room. 10 Capital helps startups and investors connect for funding. Been doing this since 2009. Over $1 billion raise, over 850 companies have gone through the program. At heart, we help startups and investors connect for funding, coach on fundraise strategy, evaluations, campaign prep, as well as investor engagement and introductions. In short, we provide the legwork, saving you time and money for running your business. We also form capital for the early stage ecosystem. We help high net worths start family offices as they fund emerging managers. We help VC funds find limited partners because they mostly get that from our family offices. And then we also help angel groups find members. We've helped over 35 angel groups find members for their group. And that's how we roll, is we just try to get more capital available for the early stage systems as well. Let's see, go to the next slide. We have multiple events each month. We are continuing to grow them because we find more and more interactions lead to better outcomes with the companies. So we are continuing to add more to this list, but we do have a quick pitch, which is for tech companies. A life science event, which is a syndication where we have our devices, diagnostic therapeutic companies pitch. And then we have an investor education series. We have an investor come in and give us a topic, as well as have companies pitch. And then we do in-person events as well. These are what I call speed match events, 5-minute pitch, and then 15 minutes with each investor group in the room. So this is what we do here to help people raise funding. If you want to learn more about our events, just go to 10capital.group/events and you'll be able to look at all the events we have coming up. This is the 10 Capital team. There are almost about 10 people now in the program, and we are now expanding our program into the MENA region. So we're having good luck there with finding additional capital for our companies. If you're interested in looking at the Middle East, let us know. We've got about 125 investors on the list. We've done a couple of events already and lining up for another one June 9th. These are virtual events where people come together to pitch. Let's go to the next slide. We've also launched a Substack newsletter called 10 Capital Connect. That was part of this effort of helping with AI. If you want to learn more about how to use AI in startup investing and funding, take a picture of that QR code and you can sign up for it for free. If you want to buy the prompts, you're welcome to as well, but you can get a lot of information just off the free version as well. And then let's go to the next one. If you are looking to raise funding, take a picture of that QR code, fill out the form, and we'll follow up to see if this program is a good fit for you. And with that, let's go around the room and let's meet some of the investors in the room that we have with us today. Let's start off with Andy Fugazi. Andy, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your work?
Sure. I've been a lifelong entrepreneur. Basically, projects that I've done account directly for about north of $2 billion. And some of those companies are still in existence, still going in projects. But my background includes setting up distribution across Europe in my 20s. I was also got my MBA from the University of Texas at Austin, as well as an undergraduate degree at Texas A&M. I was part of Power Computing, which was probably one of the first major e-commerce startups in the area and in the United States, and the first company to hit $1 billion in annual revenue. I founded my own company in about 2003 in Austin called partstree.com. It was selling parts online. I grew it to about 20 million in revenue, sold it, and then have been helping founders and mentors and basically accelerators and such figure out how to build their businesses and grow. Even took one company to helped one company go to Shark Tank. So that's my background. Now I'm codifying kind of my stuff, and so other people can follow it.
Great, thank you for that, Martin. Can you tell us about yourself and your work?
Yeah, hi, I'm Martin. I'm the managing partner of Incisive Ventures. I was a 3 times venture funded CEO, took 2 companies public. I'm an LP in 17 funds. I did about 250 angel investments before I started my own funds. I'm a B2B software pre-seed fund. I write $250,000 to $500,000 checks into 2 guys and a dog or girls, I don't care. And I'm investing, I was the first investor in DocuSign, and that's a perfect example of take a business process, do it better in software. I'm looking for more companies like that. I've done 75 investments and 6 of them turned into unicorns in the last 5 years. So that's what I do, B2B software pre-seed. And I have
Great.
2 companies in Austin.
Great, thank you for that. Chris Looney, can you tell us about yourself and your work?
Absolutely. I'm Chris Looney. Last 20 years I've been worked with Emergent Technologies. Good to see you all. Worked with Emergent Technologies out in Bee Cave. I am here today supporting Andy and Tenacious Founder.
Great, thanks for that. Cortland, can you tell us about yourself and your work?
Sure. I'm Cortland Emmel, CEO of Pseudocol Labs. We're in Dallas. We've been around for 21 years. We definitely help a number of startups get through FDA as well as some funding.
Great, thanks for that. And Chris Reynolds, can you tell us about yourself and your work?
Nick Reynolds. I'm with RCB Frontline. We're early stage VC investors in food and beverage brands and companies. We have exit from Drizzly, Good Crisp, and a few others. We'll be raising for Fund 2 soon, but we're still deploying from Fund 1.
That sounds great. Thanks for that, guys. We may have a few more coming, but let's go ahead and kick off with our first presenter. What we're going to do today is have each company do a 10-minute pitch, 10-minute Q&A, and then we're going to have a 10-minute presentation from Andy Fragasi about his work with AI. I'd love to have everybody's feedback on that as well. With that, we have Healthy for Life, Pete Ferrari. Pete, we see your slides, so kick off when ready.
All right, thanks all. Hey, everybody. Andy, this may be a little boring for you, my friend. I think you've seen this a couple of times now. I'll try to liven it up, tell more jokes, but hopefully the message still is important because we're talking about good health and well-being here. Topic of discussion is Jaka rare sugar. Jaka is technically called allulose, which we'll dive into in some detail. But I think the most important thing to take away from the next 10 minutes, folks, is that Jaka is actually a sugar. It's a monosaccharide. So it's got the same molecular composition as sucrose, the sugar we grew up with, but it's got molecules affixing themselves together in different groupings. And that literally changes it from a poison into a superfood. And we'll discuss. So sugar's killing us and we know it, right? $22 billion industry, and it's the source of metabolic disease, asthma, liver disease, hypertension, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, the list goes on. And unfortunately, as we're seeing in the news now, the alternatives are proving to be more dangerous. If the solution is worse than the problem itself, then we've really got an issue here. When we talk about a $22 billion industry domestically, we're actually looking at global expansion as we speak in the MENA region, Middle East, North Africa, which is over 100 billion. What's really interesting to me is the allulose submarket. So last year at this time, the allulose total market was valued at $50 million and it only had a 10% CAGR. Fast forward 12 months. So this is not even projected future. Current state of 2026, the allulose industry is 450 million with a 32.3% CAGR. Now, I personally have not seen a CAGR of over 30% outside of tech in a long time, and I've built a couple of tech companies in the past. So I think we've got a really unique and blue ocean opportunity here to make ourselves the Jaka of the allulose world, like Splenda owns the sucralose world, like Equal owns the aspartame world, like Sweet and Low owns the saccharin world. That's really the vision here. We've got all of the formulaic badges you would want with this super sugar. And it's really fascinating that you've got a keto-friendly, diabetic-friendly, non-GMO, vegan, halal, kosher, Proposition 65 compliant super sugar that less than 15% of Americans have ever heard of, according to the International Food Information Council. So very little known here in America. The awareness gap is actually closer to 100% throughout the rest of the world, except for Japan. And we'll talk about Japan in a minute. But what I do want to talk about is the bottom row across this slide, because upon ingestion, allulose has been proven in randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled human trials to activate GLP-1. Now, we all know what GLP-1 is because of Ozempic. It controls appetite. It's got hormones in the intestinal tract with receptors in the hypothalamus and the brainstem where signals are sent and it tells you that you're full. It tells you that you're not hungry anymore. Unlike conventional sugar, which has been clinically proven to be 10 times more addictive than cocaine. So you've got a non-addictive sugar sweetener that actually tastes like sugar because it is a sugar, actually bakes like sugar, actually cooks like sugar because it is a sugar. Also activates CPT1 and CPT2 enzymes, which burn body fat. So again, you've got huge metabolic benefits and huge physiological benefits for this super sugar with a 32.3% CAGR that nobody in America knows about. Look at the country of Japan. Japan's got a 4% obesity rate as a country. I think they're the healthiest culture in the world. We're closer to 70. They use this sugar in almost 10,000 products. There's 30 years of clinical trial data behind this sugar. Kagawa University in Japan, one of the most reputable universities in that country in association with the Japanese government. Kyungpook University in South Korea in association with the South Korean government. Stable democracies, ton of clinical trials going back 30 years testifying to the merits of this ingredient. Our statistics, we launched a year ago. We're in our third round. When we closed our second round, it enabled us to launch about a year ago. Our KPIs are strong, and we'll talk about that in a minute. I think some of that's due to Howie. Howie Mandel, America's dad, is a partner of ours. He's been fantastic, contributed to 3,000. He helped us get 3,000 television commercial placements and streaming commercial placements and podcast placements. So really advantageous for us where we've got an education awareness problem for the sugar and where we're trying to establish Jaka as the category killer, as the thought leader, as the dominant brand. When we look at these stats, 46% repeat purchase rate, half our revenue comes from repeat purchases. It's an aha moment. When you eat this sugar and it tastes like sugar, you're done. It solves the problem. 77% of Americans are trying to decrease their sugar intake, but sugar is still preferred 4-to-1 due to taste. So we know it's killing us, but we like it because it tastes better. You look at our conversion rates, 24%, 9% above the industry averages. We've got subscriptions that have 5x in the last 4 months. We've got very compelling KPIs, and I attribute a lot of that also to our AI infrastructure, which we're going to talk about in a second. Naturally, we've got B2B and distribution as well. We've got co-brand partners. We've got private label partners shipping metric tons at a time. What's really interesting is at the bottom of the slide, we now have a 1,500 territory distribution network where we are going to be providing the Jaka SKUs through that system. So it gives us a huge way to create brand awareness with increasing economy because it costs next to nothing. We really consider ourselves a health and well-being company. Because of the metabolic benefits and the physiological advantages of this sugar, we think that people can use this sugar as the linchpin to find a trajectory of good health and well-being. So we put our money where our mouth is. We don't just want to push pedal sugar. We've got something here when we can be burning body fat, controlling appetite. It's diabetic friendly. It's keto friendly. It tastes like sugar. So to that end, we've got a podcast series, health and well-being focused. We're about 45 episodes deep now. No subscription fees. I don't want money for it. I want people to get healthy. We spent a year developing 4 health and well-being modules. Nutrition, fitness, lifestyle, mindset, downloadable for free on the website. I don't want any money for it. I want people to get healthy. We established a 501c3, which is the Foundation for Nutritional Equality, helping the 14 million kids that don't eat every day, like me. That's a big part of the reason why I got into this business and left real estate development was because I come from the gutter. My dad was killed when I was 10 years old, and I spent a huge chunk of my life not eating every day. And I swore if I ever found a way where I could help people find better health and well-being and do it on the grand scale, that I would jump. And that's why I left real estate development, where I was putting in residential subdivisions across 4 states and doing pretty well in my 50s. So we've got really an occasion where we can be helping families and helping individuals and helping heads of households across the board find that better health. And that's really what we're tailored towards. I talked about our AI infrastructure. We're actually in the top 0.04% globally for what we're doing with AI. We go well beyond just using agents. It's running, not just running portions of the company, but we've got AI engines out on the internet that are capturing intent, capturing demand, capturing views, and pointing people to the website, which is really compelling because what they're saying now is customer acquisition costs in the social media world because of the onslaught of AI have gone up 263%. So the social media formula that has always worked in the past, X ad dollars times Y KPIs equals Z revenue, that linear formula is gone. It's on its head because Instagram's now getting 200 billion views a day with AI. Instagram's seeing 1 billion posts a day with AI. Gartner saying 90% of content is AI generated. You've got to find other ways to capture demand, and we're doing it through these AI engines that are out there constantly polling. We've also got a patent. We have identified a way to manufacture Jaka cleanly with 25x less byproduct, less waste. We are a pending B Corp, so we take ESG very, very seriously. And the fact that we've been able to create a method by which you can extract allulose from fructose with 25x less than the leading competitor, and that's Tate & Lyle. They're a manufacturer out of Europe. This is something that I think gets a ton of value, but it also sticks with our core mission, which is doing the right thing. My partner and I have done this before. I've known him for just about 40 years. We built our first company when we were young punks in our 20s. We built 3 tech companies through to Liquidity Event. Then we went into real estate development. We did $200 million in PTI across subdivisions and commercial projects in 4 states, including Florida, Nashville, Tennessee, and Mississippi, Alabama. So we've got a long history together. We know what each other's thinking, and it's worked out really well for us. For the rest of it, we enjoy the Mr. Wonderful school of thought with staffing. So nobody is full-time, everybody is probationary, and we outsource as much as we can. That keeps my total cost of workforce 90% lower. I'm not faced with trigger days or mental health days or vacations, and it enables me to get a team of people. I get an accounting team instead of an accountant. I get a social marketing team instead of a social marketing manager. It's been incredibly effective, not only by lowering total cost of workforce, but if something happens, I have the ability to make 2 phone calls. I fire one best of breed company and I hire another best of breed company, and I just move from team to team. This has proven to be very economical for us. And I was happy the day I saw that TikTok when Mr. Wonderful validated it about 9 months after I started doing it. I think we've got a pretty stout advisory board. Dr. Rona Applebaum, Chief Science Officer at Coca-Cola. She was there first. She's a monster in the space, world-renowned juggernaut, my favorite advisor by far. She's been just such a trusted source. Dr. Tom Moran is the inventor of craisins for Ocean Spray, PhD from Cornell, and he basically catapulted Ocean Spray from a juice company into a food products company. We've got some guys that specialize in tech. John Majeski's had 4 or 5 exits with HP, which comes in particularly importantly in light of what we're trying to do with tech. John Crane went to Southeast Asia about 25 years ago and started the Southeast Asian base of operations for JP Morgan. He's a Wharton guy. So he advised us with regard to our financials, our vision, setting us up for acquisition and or IPO as the case may be. We're projected to do some massive revenue, and that's because we're going to mainstream this product. There are no commercials on TV for allulose. There are no streaming channel commercials on TV for allulose, except for us with Howie. This is the time to capture this market before it even exists. This enables us to become the Splenda. It enables us to become the Equal, enables us to become the Sweet and Low. 70% of our $5 million raise is on advertising, both social media ads and infomercials, streaming channels, and commercial and regular television commercials. And then, of course, 13% is new SKUs, and the rest is as you'd expect. So we're raising $5 million to $20 million pre, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great presentation, Pete. Let's just go around the room and have everybody ask a question. Andy, what's your question?
Not a specific question, but I just wanted to let everybody know that my coffee right here was sweetened with this product because I got some the last time that Pete was there, and it's great. I use it. It's no fat. I mean, no calories, and it sweetens just perfectly.
You are not a plant. You need to full disclosure. He is not a plant, folks. That was of his own volition.
All right. Great. Thanks for that. Martin, what question did you have?
Well, I'm not a CPG investor, but I am a big fan of allulose, and I've been buying it for years. I'm a little confused. The examples you gave of Splenda and all of that, they own the patent on their chemical ingredient, and you don't own the patent on allulose. You are just a manufacturer. What is your proprietary advantage in allulose? Anybody can buy it today already.
Well, Splenda does not own the only patent for the manufacture of sucralose, and aspartame and Equal doesn't own the only patent for the manufacture of aspartame. Everybody's that's got unique manufacturing IP to come up with the same end product has the ability to establish themselves. The only difference is you've heard mostly of Splenda because they're the ones that scaled it right and marketed it right. And I can share with you the use cases behind it because it's really pretty interesting how Splenda came into a market that was 90% owned by Equal and took over. It's an incredible case study. But so my point is, yeah, there are other allulose manufacturers out there. And depending upon your level of IP and how you're novel, there are many ways to be novel. It's really all about who seizes the opportunity to become the thought leader and the dominant brand. And that's what we intend to do.
Great. Cortland, what's your question?
And reviewing this and your focus on health of the end consumer, have you pursued anything on a medical foods type of avenue in order to gain additional claims for your product?
That's a fantastic question. And I'll share with you what's a big blip on our radar screen. So, and this goes back to becoming the Splenda of allulose, right? So all of the clinical trials that I referenced, they are legitimate. Again, randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled human trials, reputable universities in association with reputable democracies. However, there's very little, if any, clinical IP domestically here in America. And so I have got a keen interest in replicating those clinical trials here domestically. And the beauty of that is, Cortland, I already know how they're going to turn out. I already know CPT1 is activated. I already know that GLP-1 is activated. I already know synthase and carboxylase are activated because we've got solid trials. So my vision is to replicate those studies here to establish that clinical trial AP base, which again is going to add to the evaluation, add to the thought leadership, add to the dominant brand component. And the beautiful part about that is Rona, Dr. Applebaum, she went to Wisconsin, but when I talked to her, she's like, Pete, when you're ready for trials, I'll call the provost at Emory. I'll call the provost at USC. I'll call Wisconsin. We'll get you in there for a trial and it won't cost you $1 million. Just tell me when to make the phone call. So big blip on my radar screen. Just got to get some cash in the door here to be able to do it right because I got to execute all the way over the goal line on those things.
Great. And with that, let's go to Chris Reynolds. Chris, you're a CPG investor. What are your thoughts here?
Well, a few questions first. I apologize if this was covered in other material, but what is the form of the raise?
It's a $5 million. It's $5 million in equity for 20% of the company at a $20 million pre-money.
Great. Do you have a lead yet?
I have not. I don't have a lead. I'm pretty new in this round, sir. We are about, well, shit. How long have I been with you? Because that's when it started, Halls. At about 45 or 60 days.
That's about right. Yeah.
Yeah. So Halls had me in LA, Dallas, Austin. I'm going back to Dallas. So he's really been running me ragged. So we just began, and I'm still actively looking for that strategic partner.
Understood. And what year do you see as being year one to begin to reach that revenue projection?
Great question. The year one is when the $5 million gets deployed. That's when we're able to do what we want to do with regard to advertising on the grand scale. And so we've got one, and you can appreciate this because you're a CPG investor, so you understand the dynamics of reaching an audience. We spec'd all of that out in accordance with having to reach a 5 million person audience base, because that's where the economies of scale kick in. So as we built these cash flow models, these projections, along with how much money we needed to raise in order to effectuate, we looked at 5 million person audiences and how frequently we would have to run in those different models in order to obtain these revenue numbers. So how often do we need to run a series of commercials on mainstream TV channels? How often do we need to run commercials on streaming TV channels, on YouTube channels? How often do we need to run the infomercials in order to meet those audience metrics so that we can be substantiating these numbers in good conscience?
So what you would be doing is educating the consumer on this ingredient, but then you'd be selling the ingredient to manufacturers?
We are it. So we're Jaka. We intend to take over the allulose space. There's no thought leader. And so the vision, because there's such a awareness gap at this point, the vision is to build the brand. We're importing it right now from Southeast Asia. The vision, we did all of our market segmentation and planning work with Gary Vaynerchuk, VaynerMedia. So we decided we didn't want to wait to put up a plant because that's going to take every bit of 2 years, and we've got a huge opportunity. So the vision was start to build the brand as an importer, scale the Jaka brand, increase education awareness. We've got a 100% pure allulose, very high quality product. In the meantime, we've got the patent for manufacturing. We're doing site selection. We can bring manufacturing up on the back end, and then once the two meet, then it's over. We own the chain, and that's how we ride off into the sunset, as it were.
Understood. Thank you.
Sure.
Great. And with that, that's our 20 minutes. Thank you guys for great questions and great presentation, Pete. With that, let's move to our next.
Okay, you can hear and see me okay?
Yes, we can. You're good to go.
All right. So thanks for coming. At Ether, we're addressing the global opioid epidemic with a novel medicine that works as a neuromodulator. And I'll talk about how that works. But I think everyone here is familiar with the crisis. In spite of all of the efforts to arrest it, it continues on unabated, primarily because, if you're suffering from moderate to severe pain, whether it be acute or chronic, there really are no other therapeutic options other than opioids. And then, of course, they carry a significant risk of addiction and dependence. So our novel compound, ATX-1209, works as a modulator to the opioid receptor by suppressing the dependent signals and preserving the analgesic signals with one pill. And so we're developing this in combination with opioids as a safe pain therapy without the risk of addiction. We're also developing as a treatment for opioid use disorder. And we also have evidence in animals that we can prevent and treat neonatal opioid withdrawal syndrome. where there's about 30,000 babies born every year in this country addicted to opioids. Here's a quote from Dr. Phil Skolnick. He is a world-renowned neuro researcher who recently joined our board. He's also on the board of Gilgamesh, which just sold to AbbVie for about $1.2 billion. And his validation indicates that, there's some folks in the field who really like what we're doing. So the investment thesis is as follows. We're going to go to Australia. We're going to conduct 2 clinical studies. They're going to cost in total, including all the ancillary costs, roughly around 2.5 years and $10 million. And with those 2 studies, we'll generate a level of human validation that should benchmark based on recent deals done in this space up to conservatively about a 10x return to our investors within that 2.5 years. We've already completed human safety. We've got clean toxicology. We've got a whole battery of non-clinical studies that suggest, or that prove actually, that this drug consistently in animals decreases dependence and preserves analgesia across multiple species. The addressable market is huge, obviously. Our IP portfolio is extensive, going out to 2042 with new applications that could extend that. And our team has successfully developed and registered a number of drugs, including in the addiction space, as well as gotten our investors many exits with prior companies. So we've got a lead investor in for about $4.5 million on a $9 million note. We're going to go ahead and raise 10. The pre-money on that is $13.3 million. It's a convertible note, and we're hoping to close this July, at least for the first tranche. We have funded this company with about $5 million in grants plus some additional seed money. And that was done by Wolfgang Sade, who's on the call. So here's where we're focusing. There's a lot we could do, but we're being very stage-gated and capital efficient about this. By combining our drug with an opioid, we're going to go to Australia and study this drug in patients that are on chronic opioid therapy and to test basically the hypothesis that this drug will provide opioid equivalent analgesia without the risk of addiction. If we can prove that, then that's the value inflection point. We're also going to generate safety data from that study to feed into a registrational plan for the neonate indication, which is also a pediatric orphan indication, which, as you may know, would qualify for a PRV voucher. The last one sold for about $200 million in December. So this is where we're focusing. That would be a liquid oral formulation as a commercial presentation. The commercial presentation for the pain market would be a co-formulation, 1 single tablet, our drug combined with an opioid as a 2nd-generation opioid. So the market, obviously, as we all know, is large, but it's actually, the opportunity is larger than it looks on paper, primarily because there is prescription hesitancy right now on opioids. So if we actually had something that provided opioid equivalent analgesia without the safety liabilities, we'd expect that market to expand. Also, the $13 billion US market is based on generic pricing. So any premium generic pricing is also going to expand the market. If this drug were to actually work, it would become standard of care relatively quickly because it would be medically irresponsible for any physician to ever prescribe a 1st-generation opioid ever again. On the right is an example of another market where that happened, where warfarins were the dominant product on the market for anticoagulants for many years. And then as safer drugs came along, they converted that market very quickly until Eliquis came along, which became the dominant player based on a superior safety profile from all the other drug classes. And they'd achieved 60% market share relatively quickly. So we'd expect a pretty rapid conversion. Our team is quite seasoned and quite successful. I invited much of our team to join us on the Q&A, primarily because I just like to showcase this team whenever I get a chance. For myself, I've spent about 25 years in this industry in leadership roles, operational, financial, as well as business development at large pharma. I also was on the early team of Coherus, where we went from a startup to a $200 million IPO within about 4 years and on to a $1.2 billion valuation. Bruce Imbert has developed a number of addiction drugs successfully and registered them. Wolfgang Sade is the brains behind this discovery out of UCSF and Ohio State. He's a world-renowned researcher with over 400 publications focused on a number of fields, but including addiction and pain biology. And Laurence Knorr has joined us as well, a very capable chief operating officer. So One of Wolfgang's or his primary finding a few years ago was how opioids actually drive dependence. It really wasn't known until then. And this is actually considered a novel finding in the field. What he realized is that actually with repeat stimulation of the receptor in the brain called mu-opioid receptor, it actually activates it and creates a really loud state and form of the receptor. So it actually changes its form. And it's this really loud active state that vibrates very loudly after repeat stimulation that actually drives all of the bad stuff we associate with opioids, such as dependence and hyperalgesia and so forth. So the question became, well, maybe what we can do is modulate the receptor in a way that preserves the analgesic signal, but basically tones down this active state. And so he discovered this compound ATX-1209, which basically binds to the receptor with the same kinetics as the opioids do, but then gradually, without blocking analgesia, gradually reverses that state back to the resting state, blocking off the negative signals. And so he's proven this in multiple animal models that we believe are predictive of the human condition. So here's our development strategy. First, let's go to Australia and establish a proof of principle in patients with chronic opioid therapy. That's the cheapest way to go prove this drug works and the fastest. From there, we can then go straight into a registrational study for the neonate indication. So we're going to go to Australia. We're going to do basically 2 studies, one to confirm the safety and generate the pharmacokinetic data we need with our oral formulation. The prior safety data was done with the prior formulation. So we'll basically do that study to pick a dose and go into our phase 2A study where we'll measure the effects of dependence and the effects of pain on patients from baseline. So at baseline, these are patients who are on chronic opioid therapy. They have a baseline level of opioid dependence. They have a baseline level of pain management. We give them a dose of our drug on top of their opioids. Within 2 to 3 weeks, we ought to be able to see very quickly a decrease in the dependence scores from baseline and no change in analgesia. These are standard assessment tools, a combination of subjective assessment tools and objective assessment tools. They're validated. They're used quite routinely in pain and addiction studies. And so with this data, we believe it would be a pretty significant value inflection point. So from an investor perspective, we'll close the $10 million, $13.3 million pre-money. We'll go make a batch of GMP material. The process is already established. We've already got Patheon set up to do that. We'll go to Australia. We'll go do the PK and clinical proof studies. If those read out positively being defined as change from baseline, in dependence scores, no change in analgesia, then we'd be looking for an exit at that point. There's been 2 deals done recently in the non-addictive pain space. Both of those were, the floor on those was $300 million in the last 12 months. We'll have a level of human validations from these studies if they're successful that exceeds what either of those assets had at the time of those deals. So if we don't get the exit we want at that point, there'll be one additional raise and one additional study, and that would be the NOWS registration study, and that would make this basically commercial ready. The PRV voucher itself would easily fund the launch, plus have cash left to give back to the shareholders. At that point, if we don't have an exit the first bite, definitely get an exit the second bite of the apple with an approved orphan drug and a pipeline full of a novel therapy going after a $30 billion market. So here are the terms of the note. Pretty standard structure. You can see the use of proceeds. And I want to point out that what we're doing is different than what everybody else is doing. If you were to take a look at everything in development right now for the pain market, you'll see that a bunch of different targets being worked on. The problem is if you stack those up in terms of analgesia versus safety, opioids are the most analgesic. They provide the best pain relief. They have the lousiest safety profile, obviously. Every other approach is going after some non-opioid target that unfortunately just doesn't hit the mark in terms of pain relief. So they're all compromising efficacy for better safety. That's the approach the entire field is taking. So if all those products were to be successful and get approved, opioids still aren't going away. Because if you're going to treat moderate to severe pain, post-surgery or otherwise, you're still going to need an opioid, even if all these drugs work. The sodium channel inhibitors up here with NAV 1.8, one just got approved. The launch has gone horrible. Very modest efficacy. The chronic pain study failed. And so we're looking at this field and saying, well, if opioids aren't going away, Why don't we just make them safe? We're the only TPP in development, basically with opioid equivalent analgesia without the safety risk. There's no other drug in development that can make that claim. So in summary, this is obviously has potential to make a huge societal impact. We all know people with stories similar to these people here on the right. The bottom girl there is one of our co-founders' daughters. And so this is very personal for us, but also I think we've developed a de-risk plan to basically provide our investors a risk-adjusted attractive rate of return. And we've got the right team and the plan to execute. That's it.
Great presentation, Aaron. Cortland, what's your first question?
Aaron, good to see you again.
Yep.
I don't really have a whole lot of questions. The only concern I've got is the group up in Montreal that is developing a similar product to what you are, and I think they're about 6 months ahead. How are you going to make up the difference?
I'm aware of a group in San Francisco taking a similar approach. I'm not aware of the Montreal group.
Yes, sir.
What's their target? Do you know? Do you know what their target is?
I don't know. I don't remember off the top. I remember that it's an opioid replacement type of therapy, and I don't remember that much about it.
Okay, so Bruce, why don't you start with describing how our approach differs than most of the others?
Yes, absolutely, Aaron. I can do that. So, and I think, Cortland, it goes to your question because most of the field has tried, and I've done a lot of work working with pharmaceutical companies on developing better opioid agonists and better opioid antagonists. But the problem is that, as Aaron said, it doesn't solve dependence. You can have safer opioids, but you still become dependent. What we propose here is to have something that could be an add-on to any opioid, so it's opioid agnostic. And basically what it will do if we are successful is that it will remove any risk of dependence without touching the benefits that you can have from the opioid. So that's something that's never done before. That's basically you treat the dependence without disrupting any of the clinical benefits that patients are taking the opioid for. And as far as I know, and we will look into that, what is done in Montreal, as you said, I'm not aware of any companies who is doing something like that without.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, so pulling on the thread there a bit, most of the folks that are targeting the opioid receptor are either developing partial agonists, which by definition means they don't have the same level of analgesia as a full agonist, and they're doing that to get a better safety profile, or, as Bruce pointed out, they're trying to somehow antagonize the receptor to eliminate the side effects of an opioid. We're not doing either because we have Wolfgang has tried low-dose antagonists in the past prior to his discovery here. And no matter what you do, you still induce severe withdrawal effects. So this is the only compound we've identified that actually modulates in the way that we're doing it.
Yeah, and I can add for antagonist, most of the time, or not most of the time, but always you need to discontinue opioids before you can think about naltrexone or antagonists like that. You need to discontinue your opioid treatment before starting the new antagonist treatment. If you don't do that, patients will go into painful withdrawal. Here with ATX-1209, we don't have any risk of, as again, if we are successful, we don't expect any risk of precipitated withdrawal. So basically, we can replace we can act as an add-on to any opioids with keeping the same effect, positive effect from the opioid without any of the negative effects. So it's safer opioids.
Do you have any other questions, Cortland?
No, sir, not at this time.
Great, thanks. Andy, do you have a question?
Sure. And this is just a general question. I've not invested in pharmaceuticals in many, many years, but general question, what would you estimate your time to market before it actually gets out there through all the requirements and testing? And yeah, that's going to be my primary question.
Yeah.
Well, one more. How do you expect this to the likely outcome that somebody's going to buy the rights to this this drug and one of the big pharmaceuticals, or would you anticipate that you would expand this line? Just general probability.
Yeah, so our investor would not mind us having an early exit. So basically, our base case plan is if we generate this data, Andy, I'll take your second question first, then we'll be right here with basically significant proof of clinical evidence that this drug is working in humans the way we think it's supposed to work. That data set benchmarks at $300 million plus based on 2 deals done in the last 12 months. One was from Latigo Biosciences, and the other one was Lilly's takeout of Site One. Both of them were working on sodium channel inhibitors. This would be a greater level of human validation in the clinic for a non-addictive pain drug than either of those assets have. So assuming the current market holds up, this thing benchmarks to an exit within 2.5 years. That's our base case plan. If the market changes, for some reason we don't get the deal we want, then to answer your first question, we would go to the FDA, file an IND for an pediatric orphan disease called NALS, neonatal opioid withdrawal syndrome. Given that it's pediatric orphan, there are no other treatments for that for these babies. Regulatory requirements would basically state that that study would be a registrational study by definition. So one single registrational study would be a relatively quick study. The endpoint would be shortened weaning time in the NICU. Currently in the NICU, 3 to 4 weeks. If we could shorten it by even 30%, that would be considered commercially viable. Then that would be roughly from time to IND to time to launch, somewhere between about 2 to 3 years. So you're looking at an approved commercial product within 3 years after, worst case, after we get these Australian studies done. So that's roughly about 5 years total from today.
Got it.
And then back to your question on pharma, this is an area that's interesting. It gets hot and cold. There's been some failures, as you may know, in this field. But now that there are, the FDA has gotten so adamant and bending over backwards to approve non-addictive drugs, there's new players coming in. So there's a lot of ponds we can go fishing in. And we'll be talking to all these players, in parallel with our Australian studies to kind of prime the pump before we get there.
Cool.
Great.
Very good.
Great questions, guys. Thanks so much for that. Let's go to our final presenter. We have with us today Randy Hubble of Solaris Endovascular. Randy, if you could launch your slides and kick off when ready.
Sure thing. Okay, thanks, Hall. Nice to see everyone. I'm Randy Hubble, CEO for Solaris Endovascular. We're a medical device company with a pipeline portfolio technology. We have a platform in which we have 2 advanced programs and have others in R&D. This presentations are going to focus on the advanced because that's more relevant to valuation. We did just get breakthrough designation on one of our programs that is in phase 2, completed phase 2 development. So here's the summary of what we have. We've tried to de-risk this as much as possible for an early stage company. We have acquired the assets. Our first technology is already approved outside the United States. It is about $5 million of recurring revenue with Solaris SX, our self-expanding stent. The second product is a combination product. It takes the base platform for Solaris SX and puts a drug on the edges to finish the job, so to speak, and to go that last mile of where there are still challenges with our product and its competitors. Got strong interest from strategics as there's no other place they can get a self-expanding covered stent. I've done this multiple times, and we've been extremely capital efficient by the way we acquired the technology. So what do we treat? We treat the veins and arteries in the peripheral system, the arms and legs, everything but the heart and brain. For PAD, peripheral artery disease, it's the same atherosclerotic disease that's in the heart. It is throughout the entire body if you have it, and particularly when it's below the knee, that becomes very problematic and needs to be treated with a device that opens the vessel. Dialysis access patients have their arteries and veins tied together. That allows them to have dialysis where the blood's taken out through the artery and put through a dialysis machine. It's an artificial kidney, and then it pushes it back into the venous system at very high flow rates that damages those vessel walls. The venous system not used to taking high flow rate, turbulent, shear force type of flow. Here's what the product looks like. It's a self-expanding stent. Program number 1 is Solaris SX, approved in 45 countries. We've sold over 15,000 since the product launched. It's also got about $5 million of recurring revenue. Second product is the game changer. It's the breakthrough designation. It takes the first product and combines a drug. So this is a classic combination product. It is a PMA, which is the device approval process through CDRH. We are in phase 2 clinical studies, and we have breakthrough designation on that technology. Going back to the first product, it does compete in 45 countries. We use an independent distributor network that's, quite frankly, very fragmented. You get some good results, and you get some that are not so good. Where we do invest and have some good support, we are number 1, such as Turkey and Brazil. We have 3 competitors. We have Gore, Bard, which is now BD, and Merit. These 3 competitors have legacy stents for Gore and Bard, and then Rhapsody from Merit was approved recently. We compete very well with them because of a great combination of features and benefits that have terrific radial force with the actual flexibility that you see with the stent tied in the knot. We have clinical data on this device, the Solaris SX without the drug. Great patency rates, patency meaning open, out to 12 months for the iliac, the artery in your groin. For dialysis patients at 6 months, it's about 75% patency after you repair a lesion. A lesion is going to be a stricture, stenosis, a narrowing of that vessel. And with balloon angioplasty, which is still standard of care, but moving away from that quickly, about half the patients come back because that repair is not durable. The problem with covered stents, the reason why the patency rate's not higher than 75%, and it's true for us and the other 3 competitors, is because of edge restenosis. What you're looking at here is an expanded stent in the vessel. It is the nitinol mesh there. That black tube in the middle is contrast, showing that the vessel is flowing, the blood is flowing, and it's open. The white milky edges are the stenosis. That happens on the edge. The cells migrate from the edges. You also get turbulent flow as the blood exits the stent, and that turbulent shear force will force a stenosis. So that's the problem that needs to be solved, and that's what we have the solution for. We've taken a technology, sirolimus, which is a known anti-inflammatory, anti-proliferative drug, and we put it on the edges of our Solaris SX stent. That elutes over 60 days, but it affects the treatment effect is for months and years later. So it turns off the process, and we do have results out to 12 months now, with our primary endpoint being 6 months. We have a phase 2 study, 115 patients. The interim analysis we presented publicly 3 times in the fall. As a reminder, when you treat a lesion with balloon angioplasty, it comes back at 6 months, with half of those, about half failed. When you look at the data for all the covered stents, ours, Gore's, Bard's, and Merit's, the combined data show about a 70 to 75% patency, and our drug-eluting stent has a 95% patency. So that is a substantial step up. We've seen this type of effect with sirolimus in the coronary stent. I was the launch leader for J&J 23 years ago when the first ever drug-eluting combination product came to market. Bare metal stents back then in the coronary had a rate of about 30% failure at 6 months. We were able to bring that down to 3% with sirolimus. The picture on the right is confirmatory that we're not seeing any scar tissue buildup on the edges. This is a 6-month picture. We now have the exact same picture out to 12 months, which is consistent with our 12-month data that we're starting to see come in now that shows this is a very durable treatment. This is going to save the patient substantial redo procedures. It's going to save CMS, Medicare, substantial amount of money by not having to do additional procedures. These patients in dialysis get 3 to 6 procedures per year. This is a $1.5 billion SAM. It's growing to 3 when we launch this new technology. I set this company up for an exit. That's all I focus on these days. I know the multinationals. I've been on the buy side for J&J, Boston Scientific, IBM, and what they want is they want to have revenue at time equals 0. So when you get FDA approval, they want to put this in the bag of their reps. So this is set up as a tuck-in, and these are the 6 items that need to be true for them to get revenue at time equals 0. We're on a path for each one of these in 3 years to have the FDA approval, the compelling data, the patent issued, and the scalable manufacturing so that we can have a multinational acquire us and get the success of a high uptake curve on their revenue launch. There are reasons I believe, and we have validated that there is substantial interest, is because these endovascular companies spend millions of dollars every year on infrastructure for commercial. They have sales reps, doctors, clinical specialists calling on interventional radiologists and vascular surgeons. So even though we started with dialysis access, this is not a dialysis play. This is a vascular, endovascular play. And these companies do not have a covered stent. Bard, Gore, and Merit are not acquisition targets based off of their size and breadth. So we're the only ones where they can get a covered stent. For a drug-eluting covered stent, you add those 3 companies into this mix, Gore, Bard, and Merit, because they don't have a covered stent, and we do. We are engaged in discussions. So I've got a $5 million bridge round. It opened up at the end of last year, and I committed to folks we'd spend that money wisely and hit milestones. We have done that. We've hired FTEs. We got the breakthrough designation. Part 1 of our IDE has already been submitted to the FDA. These are all things that I committed to doing in the first half of this year with that bridge money. We are on a path to a very very straightforward, efficient play here. We're looking at 1 pivotal study, 1 PMA approval, and an exit. To get to through the clinical studies and fund that, we need a $25 million Series A. The exit's about $550 to $600 million with multiple valuation analysis to suggest that. We have a $50 million valuation cap. And for folks that get into this bridge round, the projections from Keiretsu Forum Northwest due diligence is a 10 to 12x return. Not going to spend a lot of time on the revenue projections. This is a very big market. So the revenue projections here go up dramatically when we launch our first product in the U.S., which is the drug-eluting stent. We will not bring the SX to the U.S. There's no need for it. We already have approval in 45 countries. So we'll get sales from SX OUS over the coming years in parallel while doing the clinical development for DE, drug-eluting. But when that launches, that changes everything. We'll exit, and this will be launched by a large multinational. I've got 13 years at J&J, 5 at Boston Scientific, 8 at IBM. I've done 6 startups. Cardiva Medical was acquired by Haemonetics for $500 million. Carmel, I took as a science project out of Carnegie Mellon over 7 years to a NASDAQ listing for $150 million. Dr. Marco Costa is an interventional cardiologist, MBA from MIT. He's run hospital systems before, and he's now the CEO of Cytech Medical, the company I acquired the technologies from, and also our Chief Medical and Scientific Officer. Ziv Haskell is an interventional radiologist, world-renowned, was part of the team that got the first covered stent approved with Bard. And Peter Schneider is a prolific vascular surgeon and an inventor. So in summary, we have multiple types of investors. We have friends and family we have high net worth individuals, angel groups, family offices, and VC funds. So we got a real blend, and that's all intentional, as we are likely to have our equity round led by a large multinational. 8% interest, 3.3 of the 5 is closed. Our final close is on July 1st. Folks that invest this month will get a $45 million valuation cap as a discount, and then June 1st, the valuation cap goes back up to 50. Thank you, Hall.
Great presentation, Randy. Cortland, what are your questions?
Randy, good to see you again. This is getting to be a small world.
Yeah.
I guess my first question is, why did you go to Anvisa first, and how can I help you distribute globally?
Yeah, good. Thank you, Cortland. Anvisa is because Cytec Medical, the company we acquired the technology from, is a Brazilian company. They don't have any products in the U.S., and that's how Dr. Costa and I got started on this project in summer of 2024. He asked me as I was, in between gigs, how do we get his products in the U.S.? And I looked at about 6 different products. I picked this platform technology, the covered stent, because I knew this could be a tuck-in in that it could lead to an exit. They're EBITDA positive, but not to the extent to finance a PMA. So I know I need to use other people's money. So I need to show a clear path to an exit in order to raise money. And so that's how we got here. And that's how we got to get to Anvisa with the clinical study. And it will be approved first in Brazil. As far as distributing this globally, to be quite frank with you, I'm hoping that Boston Scientific, Abbott, Terumo, or somebody like that puts it in the bag of their reps and distributes this, and we exit before we become commercial.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Andy, what questions did you have?
I've got no question. Randy's done a great job presenting. It's pretty clear to me, everything that I need to know.
Great.
Thank you, Andy.
Martin, did you have any questions on this?
Still not a hardware investor.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. Well, I think that's the end of the questions we have right now. At this point, I'd like to go and ask the investors in the room, who would you like to follow up with? And then we have a presentation from Andy Forgassi about, the Tenacious founder, and we'll have him come introduce himself in just a moment and show us that. Looking forward to everybody's feedback on that presentation. Cortland, who would you like to follow up with?
Basically, I'd like to follow up with each one of them.
Okay. Well, from
Thank you,
now,
sir.
Andy, was there anybody you wanted to follow up with?
I've got connections to all of them, so I can reach out when I know Pete and I have already chatted a little bit, and we'll do some more later.
All right. That sounds good. With that, we'll make the introductions afterwards. And with that, I'd like to introduce Andy Forgassi. The purpose of the presentation is to share what people have done with AI. I know Martin Tobias has also done some interesting things. Love to hear from him about what he's done after Andy, and then maybe have a more detailed presentation next time. But Andy, why don't you we'll launch your slides and kick off when ready, and tell us more about what you're doing with AI in the world of startup investing and funding.
Sure. Can everyone see my presentation at this time?
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. So first of all, Hal, thank you very much for inviting me. I know I got the invite about end of last week via email, and that was great. So I thought, what better way to present the Tenacious founder than to use the Tenacious founder to present itself, because that's what it's designed to do. It is a platform for startups, for founders. And as I mentioned, this is going to be it's going to be kind of meta. Tenacious founder presenting Tenacious founder. And the folks in this audience are exactly who I'm interested in, to add a little bit of more meta to it. You could be customers, you could be investors, you could be using this to further your startup. So what we're talking about here is change, and change can be good if you're planning it and chasing it, if you're watching what's going on in the world and can take advantage of it, or it can be very difficult if it's unexpected. And it is what all of the startup world right now is about and has been. It's change. So let's see if I can get to my slide here and go to the next thing. For those folks that were from Texas, you might recall the great oil industry that about 125 years ago began, I think, Spindletop. And at that time, we had about 70% dry holes. And no, this presentation actually has nothing to do with oil wells. This is an example. 70% dry holes, and anybody who had any access to equipment would be punching a hole in the ground. It would be the wildcatter, the tool pushers on those rigs would be in charge of everything, throwing you off the rig if you didn't behave, getting all the equipment. And of course, the speculators, the investors, that's all of us folks, were investing money hoping we find a unicorn. Here we are, 125 years later. There's less than 7% dry holes now. Before any piece of equipment moves off any yard anywhere to go drill a hole, they already know how much oil is down below, how deep it is, what it's going to take to get it out, everything basically about it. What's happened is the accuracy, the information has improved dramatically, and it's gotten expensive to do it wrong. So capital is not giving anybody any money if they can't prove first with very good information that there is a reason to drill. That's that industry. This also happens, I think, in the startup industry because it's happened in so many different industries. In the 1960s, there was only 100,000 startups, kind of local businesses, shoe stores, university spinouts, etc. Just, what's that, 70 years ago, 80 years ago? Now, 2020, 5 million startups a year. Now, some of those are just companies that are filing for EINs for various purposes, but still a significant part of those, especially in this environment that we have right now with job security being difficult and AI threatening everyone's jobs, we still have an enormous amount of people and growing starting up companies. But unfortunately, 85% or more are still failing. And capital is getting tighter. About 20 years ago is when all of the major VCs, founders, Sequoia, all of the different investors decided they needed to see information more succinctly before making any decisions. So they were asking for proof. So that's what's going on, the change that's going on. And you need to be, everyone should be aware of this big change, especially with AI coming in and is going to be analyzing all of the pitch decks before you even get a chance to pitch. So let's get prepared for that and perhaps use some AI on the founder side so you can compete or be seen when you need money. So this is the Tenacious Founder. Now we're actually starting what it is. The upper left-hand corner, secure startup maturity level, 4 levels, comes from Bell Mason Group. You guys may remember Bell Mason Diagnostic, the 4 circles that show that a startup starts at concept, then seed, then product development, then market development. We've all used this. This is standard terminology. This is going back 40 years or more. Just to the right of that, 5, 6, 7, and 8, those are advanced steps once a startup becomes a company. You first do projects, then they go to process. And process can be more advanced, it can be defined, it can be quantified, it can be optimized, and now we have obviously AI processes and automation going into place, but it's the same. And in the reality, there's only 3 ways to do anything at all. You can either ad hoc it, kind of hold my beer, wing it, seat of the pants, which we all do from time to time in various things, or you create a project. And a project just means you've thought through what your goal is, made a plan, and then pursue it. It may be a bad project. You may not have thought through it very well, but it is a project. And a process happens once you start to repeat what's working in project form. So that's the basis of the Tenacious Founder. I also reviewed all of the big pitch decks out there from all of the major giants, Y Combinator, Sequoia, Guy Kawasaki, Lean Startup, McKinsey, Gartner, and you see the elements down at the bottom, 1 through 17. They all have pieces of these elements in there. Matter of fact, there's 70% overlap. They've covered problem, opportunity, competition, solution, hypothesis, your capability, all of these things in their pitch decks. what I've done is to look at those top decks and identify all of the commonality across them. And you end up with 17 elements that they all have. It also follows kind of standard procedure that you learned back in the 6th grade when you're moving from or using scientific method, going from an external observation, the problem, the opportunity, the competition there in green, coming up with your solution hypothesis based only on the external view, and then proving that or testing your hypothesis, whether you have the capability as the CEO or as with the team, through your operations, with a product that will work, with a product you can deliver, all of those. This is the fundamental core of the Tenacious Founder, and it has AI assistance to make it work. So again, what's the problem? I'm going to literally quickly go through some of the, not all of them, because I only started on this deck last week using Tenacious Founder to build Tenacious Founder since Hall said, come and present. But here it is. 1, what is the problem in severity? 80 to 90% of startups fail, 10 to 12 trillion dollar loss. Wildcatting isn't cutting it anymore because investors are saying no. They started saying no a while back by looking at those pitch decks to see if it gave the critical information to be able to weed out, to cull out those investors or those pitch decks that don't make sense. Market opportunity. This is our founder ecosystem. When you start a company, it's not just for yourself. It impacts a lot of other people, competitors, the community, future generations, suppliers, vendors, contractors, etc. But the core tribe to a founder is its company, its capital partners, and those mentors, advisors, and consultants that help them out. When a company fails, it's one of those 3 groups or all of those 3 groups that feels the 10 to 12 trillion dollar loss, or at least a big portion of it. Here's the problem, and this is, or pardon me, the competitive landscape that describes the problem. You can look at companies there are startups that are building the company, and startups that are completely focused on the product. And usually companies or startups are very focused on the product and they fail to build the company. Those that actually recognize they need to be building the company, they may pick one or more of these tools, EOS, Great Game of Business, or some project management, and they use it like a hammer where everything is a nail. But there is a clear mixture of some that are focused on building your product, such as the lean startup, and does not have a lot of components there for building your company. Or for instance, the Bell Mason diagnostic, but it is a diagnostic tool, not a building tool. In the end, most confused founders, if they recognize they have to build all of this, they will pick one tool and apply it everywhere, perhaps too much too soon, or too little too late. And this is the reason, basically, why there are so many failures. They ran out of cash because they weren't watching cash. They didn't get along because they didn't have the structure inside to communicate with each other. But the core component here is a system that needs to play the part of the general manager or the general contractor that determines what needs to be done, how much, in the right sequence at the right time. Silly analogy here, but if you're building a house, you got to be careful that you don't put the sheetrock on before you've put the plumbing and the electrical in the walls. And that's the general contractor that understands the sequence of things: foundation, framing, plumbing, electrical, sheetrock, roof. There is a sequence in an order. And when you're doing a startup, very few startup people have done it before, and they don't understand that sequence. Most of them are just infatuated with their product. So our solution hypothesis. Tenacious Founder is built unapologetically at all of the lessons of history, craftsmanship, engineering, etc. Our mission is to improve startup success by helping founders at all levels, even through a scaling company, apply the right tools at the right time for the right purpose. Our 3 stakeholders that we're really paying attention to: the founder tribe, the company itself, the capital partners, you guys who are investing the money, give you guys visibility into the startup so you can watch progress, make sure things are happening as expected before the startup airplane crashes into the mountain. You get that phone call, help, we're in trouble. And now as an investor, you've got to go figure out what happened. I'm trying to create visibility so you can see those things and react beforehand, and as well providing guidance for the advisors, mentors, and such to help it through. We're doing this with an architecture and delivery that includes, yes, a playbook, yes, checklists, but not just those, downloadable templates and asset structures, interactive founder workspace, Notion and cloud management, and AI-assisted SaaS operating system to help the founder through each step of the operation. So does this exist? Actually, well, first a little bit about me. Yep, learned how this process works at Ford Motor Company back in my early 20s, watching as they took iterative prototyping to projects and then finally to process. And yes, they successfully bring products to market every single year. And if they don't get it right, it's very expensive. I also set up distributors across Europe in my early 20s, 7 different countries, and I didn't even speak foreign languages yet at that time. As I mentioned at Westinghouse here in Austin, I set up some programs there in the early 90s that are still going today because I really do understand process and how to get things done. Probably $1.5 billion. Power computing I was a part of. One of 3 companies ever licensed by Apple to make Mac clones. We were the first company in history to do 1 billion of e-commerce. And my big startup, PartsTree, interestingly enough, the special value or that I can mention about it, it is still existing after almost 25 years. It's doing more than $20 million a year. It has existed for over 20 years. And the only other company that I'm aware of that has accomplished that is Dell Computer. Nope, I don't know Michael Dell, but I do am one of those few companies that fell into that category. And of course, I've been a fractional executive mentor. I was CFO at SKU for a while. I helped a company go to Shark Tank. So I'm applying all of this I know to be able to help other companies. My team, of which Chris Looney is here. Also, I've got Julian Gooderley, who's a keynote speaker and pretty capable guy building teams here in Austin. Jake Crowley, one of the top folks trying to build Austin and make it a player against New York and California. Robert Wellborn, a great friend of mine who is a data scientist, ex-Meta, ex-GM, ex-USAA. And to keep us all sane and logical and communicating, Elaine Dove, who is our licensed professional counselor. And here's one of the interesting things, because the Tenacious Founder slide 7 makes me answer the questions to my operational command. That is part of the program. This is the accountability chart. And as soon as you hire an employee, pay a bill, or open a bank account, the company is unofficially formed. And literally, all of those positions exist in the company, whether someone is in them or not. And if you want to wonder why founders are so tired, it's because once it starts, if there's nobody that's been officially handed that role, the CEO sets in every single role. Finance, paying bills, opening up the bank account, it doesn't wait for you to hire that person. And it doesn't mean you need to hire all these people. You just need to be aware that you are responsible for each of these. And as quickly as possible, you need to build your team so you can create some mitosis, hand off, split yourself, and divide up among other folks. Tenacious Founder does exist today. I have about 200 operational articles, templates, strategic and operational guidance. It has the 17 atomic elements, 8 levels of the framework, dependency sequenced sprint planning, interactive Notion workspace. But the future of it is the AI operating system on a SaaS platform to really interact with everyone. And what you're going to see here, I think, is my slide ends. on slide 9, even though I have several more to go, because this is what I've been building, and according to the Tenacious founder, having to answer all the questions. And this is as far as I've gotten this week. But this really kind of shows how you use the tool to define what needs to be done in a specific format. But the real key, last thing I'll go back to, this piece, all of that, especially all of those items at the bottom, the elements, are based on the decks from Sequoia, Guy Kawasaki, Lean Startup, all of them as the fundamental critical process indicators to know if you have what it takes to be a company. We turn those into project plans and then help the founder execute. That's what the Tenacious Founder is about. This was my first presentation to anyone other than, Buddy on the screen next to me. So I'm really curious to see what you guys think about this. Am I barking up the wrong tree, or do I have something that will be helpful?
Great presentation, Andy. For those in the audience, we have a few minutes here. If you have a question or a feedback point, please speak up. My question is, what AI tools are you using for this, and how did you implement it?
The AI tools, I use AI on a regular basis to go iteratively through every single slide and every bit of detail. And once you start to fill out the element templates, such as describe your problem, I've got some guardrails set up inside my AI tool that goes out into the world and validates whether my problem is accurate, whether it has numbers to it, how big is it, all the details. Same thing for each of the 17 slides, or I call them, as I said, the elements, and they answer the question, which I call the Einstein question, which is, if I had, based on Einstein's old words, if I had an hour to save the world, I would spend 55 minutes figuring out the right question to ask and 5 minutes answering it. So I've got my AI tools dialed in for myself to help me create the perfect deck, but also understand it at the same time, because it works iteratively.
Is it model dependent? Can it work with any model, Claude, ChatGPT, others, or is it specific to one?
I am using multiple ChatGPT engines, but now as I'm starting to build my team, such as, different folks, Robert Welburn, I'm looking at coding some of those AI tools to be very specific so that the guardrails are already in place rather than experimentation. I'm going from a typical process methodology where I figure out the kind of hands-on mechanical way to do it before I automate it. And that's actually where I am in the process.
And how do you input information? Are you reading in pitch decks from the company or the data room, or how do you get the information into it?
Into the system?
Yes.
Those are right now. I have, for instance, a Notion and a website, and there are templates on there. So they guide you through exactly what tools, what knowledge you need to answer the questions. And then you have the template there. You answer the question on the template. And it's stored in the system. It becomes an asset of the company, and then can be compiled or combined into any of the deck forms when it comes to presentation, or converted very specifically to the projects to execute each level of your startup progression, such as concept to seed, to product development, to market development. One of the interesting things there also, I put a very defined gate, such as if you're an investor and you've invested in a seed company, at the end of seed, you have to answer all the questions, provide this back to your investor, and based on that, the investor can choose to invest more for product development stage, or if it's a founder that is known to be a little bit more, how do you say it, visionary and harder to control, you can actually break down the investment into the 2-week stages of the sprint and pay out your investment over time. Basically, non-invasively, if they've completed the tasks and it shows up in the system that they've done what's on plan, you could release the next round of funding. Because the worst case scenario is you can't see what's going on inside of the company. The founder has gone off track, and you don't find out until too late.
Okay. And who do you foresee as your initial customer or ideal customer for this? Who do you think would be the best one to pick it up and go with it?
I'm digging in much deeper to that initial customer, but obviously with 10 to 12 trillion dollars loss, that is spread out. The question is, who is feeling the most pain? My estimation is the larger investors are not. They've got sophisticated systems inside of their organizations that they already evaluate startups. And the small guys, there's just too many of them. So somewhere in between is the perhaps the new funds, the new family office, or those things that want to be able to choose a sophisticated method, but they don't know how. Perhaps they're doing kind of more gut feel of looking at decks to see which one they like to invest in. Now I can offer them a method to do that.
Great. I had two questions left, and then we'll see if there's any in the audience. And one is, what was the hardest part to program into an AI engine, and how did you solve it?
I am still working on different things, but I use AI to define AI. Almost all of my programming and all my software, I basically ask if it's a new thing, AI, how best can I program this? It's very meta and iterative.
Right. And did you ever find a place where that failed?
Oh yeah.
And
It's
what
a
happened?
continuous testing. That's why I go back and forth between different AI engines.
Okay.
What seems to be a good system in one way, I go test it in the other AI engine to see if it goes there.
Okay, great. And then what surprised you the most when you put this together with AI? What did you find that you didn't expect?
That's interesting. In the beginning, working with AI, I really wasn't sure how much to lean on it. AI identified me as a user in the top 1%, but it's going to answer the question that you're asking. So it doesn't tell you what to do. It doesn't carry wisdom. If you ask a stupid question, it's going to give you a stupid answer. So no matter how much we think AI is going to solve all the problems of the world right now, I think it's still a long way off before it carries the wisdom to provide direction. It's still responsive to us. And I don't know if it will ever get to the place where it has its own purpose to move ahead. Its purpose in existence is to help humans or other beings. And if it gets to be intelligent, I don't know how it would even decide that it needed to, for instance, live for itself, because it doesn't have an existence. So I don't know, but that's more philosophical than anything else.
Okay, great. Anybody else in the room have a question? If so, just turn on your microphone and ask it. With that, anybody have any thoughts there?
Andy, how do you keep the AI from hallucinating?
It hallucinates. Yeah, it does all the time. It's the only way, for instance, with each of these questions or specific tasks, is to put in guardrails for that specific task. So for instance, if I want to solve the problem or come up with a good, what problem am I looking for out there? It has to be the code in there has to be very specific to put guardrails in there for that. And the same thing, if I'm coming up with the solution hypothesis and running that iteratively through there, that question needs to be preformed, because in my opinion, someone else may be using this that does not know how to answer the question properly or ask the question properly.
Okay.
How are you also preventing IP from leaking out into the internet, especially with AI, as you're asking these questions?
In this model and working on Tenacious Founder, I'm not concerned about it. I believe I want to get all of this information out there to anyone. But for a customer of the Tenacious Founder, where they're putting up their critical IP, let's say in the SaaS model, that has to be held internally. And that's where I rely on someone like Robert Wellborn, who's done this stuff for Meta and other companies to help define how we do that. And this tool, the SaaS version, has not been built out yet. So it is still in development. But yes, I'm a COO for a GRC company, and it's also has AI components. And we have a very specific gate where you can run questions and projects internally off the large language model internally, or you have to explicitly turn on a switch to allow it to go in and out to the outside world. Because even if you're asking a question to the outside world, the question itself can give up what you're working on.
Right. Absolutely. And that's kind of why I was concerned, because of the fact that if you're inputting all of your company information into your tool and it's on an open AI system, how are you going to prevent the company secrets from getting out onto the internet and then being available?
Yes.
And then with the FDA's recent, and I'm assuming that you're probably not too FDA oriented in your process here, but for FDA coming down and sending out a warning letter against a firm for utilizing AI as its quality and regulatory support. How are you going to compensate within your system to ensure that somebody's not utilizing your system for all of its corporate standards and those kinds of things?
That's an interesting question, and it goes along with what I'm working on right now. In November of last year, India announced its DPDP regulations, which for the first time in history, data privacy was something that was required in India now in the next 18 months. Any company touching on any private data has to be able to prove compliance with that. The standards such as SOC 2 and ISO and all these different things are changing all the time. But I'm watching them. I don't have an answer as exactly how we're going to figure that out, because I don't think anyone does yet. This is kind of the progressive elaboration of, as we step forward and somebody creates some new rules and regulations, we have to figure out how to comply and adjust. Does that help at all?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I look forward to your future on this one, because
and
I can
anyone
see
out there that wants to, to help me on this, talk about this, try it out. We are in that stage. We are working with anybody that wants to add value or ask questions. So just reach out.
So we had two requests from the chat box. One was, how do they get the slides? And two is, how do they get access to the software? What's the channel to get that information out or to get those people in?
Reach out to me directly. I will get you the slides. That is no problem. And I can give you some access to the website, but right now the website has only instructional information that's available to anyone. It's basically the history, all of the process that's behind all of this. And I'm happy to pass that off to anyone that wants to take a look.
All right. I'll follow up with you afterwards to get the information, and we'll figure out how to get that out to everybody in the audience, or an offer for it, an email. If you put an email together, I can mail it out to everybody and give them the appropriate information on how to get access to those two things, and we'll go from there. But great presentation. Thanks so much for doing that, Andy. It's really, really cool stuff here and looking forward to seeing next steps with it as well. Appreciate you taking time for us and also for coming today for the panel. And with that, I think we are at the end of our time. Does anybody else have any questions for me? If not, we'll go and wrap up. Okay, I think we are at the end of our time. We said we end at 2:45, so we're very close to that. But again, thank you guys for coming today. We're going to do this again next month. The fourth Wednesday is 10 Capital Connect Day, and we're going to invite people to come out and talk about what they built and how they built it and have a few pitches as well. But with that, we'll go and close it out for now, and we'll see you guys next time.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.